Now we're on. Hello, everybody. This is the Creatures of the Night. I'm Chris.
And I'm Wendy. That was
I hope
pretty
everyone.
smooth.
Yeah. Except for where I just totally fumbled over my next sentence.
Well, we
And there
love
you
to
go.
talk over each other all the time. It's like
All
it's a
this time.
race.
Hang on. Sorry, I am having to scroll my story so that I can see it because I'm sitting so far away from my computer. These words are itty bitty, so I'm scrolling right now so I can see everything.
You got to do the big font like I do.
Yeah, I do. Which kind of sucks because everyone that has joined us tonight, if this is your first time, Wendy and I Skype to do these podcasts. So I can't see her in the itty bitty little window, which that's all I've got. I've only got a side of the big screen of your face so I can just see your cheekbone. And I see the itty bitty little window, but I have to do it that way so I can see my story because I don't print it out. I just have it on the computer here.
Right. Save the trees.
Save the trees.
I'm glad you support that.
Well, there's a woman that I work with who her favorite animal is sloths. So she always says, "You're cutting down all the sloths' homes." The way she says it is so gut-wrenching, and I really feel bad because I do like sloths. They're cute. And I'm not as big of a fan as she is. As a matter of fact, I saw now that it's March, they've got all their calendars on clearance. And I was walking through Walmart, and on this, the calendar rack, there's tons of nobody cares calendars. Like, okay, I guess, flowers,
Right.
animals, bunnies,
Yeah.
waterfall, the generic type stuff. There was one sloth calendar and it was like $2. And you flip the bitch over and every sloth on there looks like it's smiling. Who didn't buy this? So I had to pick it up for her. It made her day, actually, too.
Oh, that is so sweet of you. Well, you couldn't leave it there.
I couldn't. No. I mean, look. Okay, another thing you guys might not know if this is your first time. I am such into deals. I'll buy it even if it's not for me or I don't even know who it's going to go to. It's just like something that I see. I'm like, this, I can't just leave here. I have to buy this. So it made her day. And she even told me that she was having kind of a crap morning. So she hung it right up and I felt pretty good about it. That's all I need, really. I love, in case you didn't know this, Wendy, I love to buy things for other people. I like how it makes other people feel when they get something from me. It makes me feel good just to know that I did something special for somebody else. That's I don't know, that's always been my thing. Even my husband remembers back when we were in high school and I gave him a Christmas card. Dude, I didn't even like him in high school. He was annoying. He was the guy that was always hanging around me and my boyfriend. But it just was, it was Christmas time. So I gave him a card and he kept those cards. When I hear things like that, it just it makes me feel good. So yeah, I picked it up for her and it was kind of like the olive branch, I guess, between us because her and I haven't had the best of relationships, I guess. We were working very closely. And now we're not. So
distance always makes the heart grow fonder, right? Yeah.
Yes,
a little bit of space.
A little bit of space. So that worked out really well. Plus the calendar was cute as hell. So who wouldn't love me for that? I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, yeah. And we've said this on the podcast before, but it's been too long. I should remind everyone. Chris is the best gift giver in the world. She sees into your soul and sends you exactly what you were hoping for. And you didn't even know you were hoping for it.
Aww.
So it's just the most amazing things ever. Can I tell them about my presents real quick?
Go for it. Yeah.
So I had a birthday. We won't talk about it. Nobody wants to get older. Definitely not me. But I do love presents. And Chris, she sent me these boxes, multiple boxes. I wait until the day of my birthday. I'm opening them up with my kids and they're opening the boxes for me. But the second I see what's inside of them, like I said, didn't even know I needed these things in my life. But I'm jumping in front of my children and grabbing at them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. So Chris sent me a snow globe and it's not just any old snow globe. Nope. It's from my favorite show, Outlander. So it's super cute. It has a scene inside the little globe thing and you got to shake it up and it's all sparkly gold, which by the way, my oldest said, why is it gold? Not snow?
No.
I was like, because it's magical.
Magic snow, right? Yeah.
Right. And then, just so many other fantastic things. I won't go down the list, but the snow globe and I had this cute little snake ornament because I have a weird thing with snakes.
Yeah.
And then just some really cool Pisces stuff, because I'm super proud of being a Pisces, even though it means I'm a basket case. But
well, you and I both. I'm always very proud to represent zodiac signs because I dig into that very deeply. But like you said, my presence feel like to you that I see into your soul. And I think it's because I'm not a very good wordsmith. I am like a marble mouth. I fumble over my words all the time. And even when I'm typing things out, it's like the worst thing you'll ever see. If you actually sit and watch me typing up the things that I'm going to post about on Instagram or even my story, I start out in one direction and then I rewrite the whole thing probably about 40 times until I'm satisfied with it. I just can't get out what I'm trying to say, but I guess with gift giving, it's just easier that way, you know?
Yeah, it's just a way to show people that you know them and you love them.
That's how I do it.
Because you pay attention to who they are, and that reflects in what you give them. It's so great. It's kind of funny that you say you're bad with words, though, and we do a podcast.
I know. That's where I was going with it. So thanks so much for listening, guys.
We appreciate you sticking this out.
Right. I'll try my best to learn how to speak in this episode. So anyways, you're welcome, Wendy, and happy birthday, even though we're not going to talk about it anymore. I just had to get that out for you.
Let's just talk happy gift receiving.
All right, fine. Then I'll move on. I have another topic for you. How about this? So one of the things that I had on my bucket list before I turned 40, which is fast approaching, was to get through The Shining.
Oh.
And I did it.
Congratulations.
Oh, man. Thank you. I'm very proud. I mean, I know that's not like, I feel so dumb. It's not like the bucket list thing for most people. Like, I'm going to sit down and read a book.
Hey, it's a practical goal. And you did it. And I bet it was fun.
It was good. I'm so glad that I did it. The reason why I didn't, for so long, and I'd mentioned this before, was because I was worried that it was going to ruin the movie for me. And it did not. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I really did enjoy the book, but I still am just in love with the movie. I mean, honestly, I feel like the actors that they got, Jack Nicholson, I mean, I've gotten through the book. In my mind, those characters that I'd seen in the movie, they were the same characters. So even though in the book, Wendy, who's the wife, she's described as looking completely different to me, I just blew over that. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I know what she looks like. I saw the movie. Don't lie to me. But it was really good. They really kind of deep dive more into the alcoholism, playing a huge role into his, and when I say his, I mean Jack Torrance's, I guess, becoming this monster, becoming this, I don't know, someone who was able to become completely engulfed by what was supernatural about the hotel. It was able to take him over. The movie, it had to cut out a lot because it's a movie. The movie can't be 14 hours long. So they had to just get you to the nitty gritty. And they, very basically say he had an alcohol problem. He hurt Danny. The wife was kind of around, but also not very happy with the situation. They don't go into great detail as you get to when you're in the book. And I'm very happy that I finally went through the book. The book was good. There were parts in the book that obviously weren't in the movie. The topiaries that came to life, I was like, my imagination just ran wild with that. Loved that part.
That was a good part.
Wasn't that neat?
I don't like horror movies.
I know.
But I've read books and I'm fine with them. And my imagination's good enough that it makes all these things come to life. And he describes it so well that it's easy to go there.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. And I kind of do wish that I would have read the book before I'd seen the movie. But now the movie, it came out in 1980. I was born in 1980. So it's not like I was reading that I wasn't at that speed, when
Your child prodigy. I don't think they'd be putting Stephen King novels in front of you if you were, though.
Oh, that's true. God, that would have been awesome, though. But yeah, I was psyched about it. And what was it, November, I think? Yeah, November. Dr. Sleep had come out. And my husband and I went and saw it in the theater like the day it released. And that's a book that I hadn't read either. But having seen it and now having read The Shining, the book, like a lot more things kind of make sense. It kind of puts a little bit more together for me. And I've heard that Dr. Sleep, the book, is not as interesting as the movie was. But I mean, I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm so proud of myself. Here, I could go on and on and on. Let me pat myself on the back some more. I read the book.
You do feel accomplished. We talked about this before, but actually reading a book, like even in audiobooks, you feel like you really done something after you finish it. You're like, wow, that was like 14 hours of my life or something, or even longer with some books. So you're like, whew, I did that. I'm like a genius now. It's just some horror book.
But it is such a good feeling. You're right. I mean, honestly, I love books. I have a real strong appreciation for them. I love having the Audible app. I'm still very excited about that because I download books on UFOs left and right, man. It's the best. I feel like I'm really kind of sneaking in, some of my alien stuff here whenever I get the chance. So it's awesome. I love it. But yeah, so there it is. I made it through The Shining. Damn, I had something else to follow up with that, and I can't remember what it was. Well, all right, then. I guess I'll just get to it since I can't remember. It's that age, I tell you. So, do you want me to just jump right into my story?
Sure. Let's do that. Bring on the paranormal.
Bring on the paranormal. Well, I've got a haunted house to talk to you about that's in California.
I love that because I get excited. I act like it's right next door, but it's not.
Close enough, right? How far of a drive would you have to? 8 hours?
No, to be at the border, just like 4 hours.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but it just depends on where you want to go. I mean, it's like 6 hours to LA or San Diego.
That's where I'm talking. I'm talking Los Angeles in this episode.
Okay, cool.
You're probably going to like this one. So the location that I'm going to talk to you about today is at 2451 Laurel Canyon Boulevard in Los Angeles. It's a sprawling 10-bedroom mansion that was originally built in 1918. And after a great fire had reduced the house to ruins in the 50s, it was rebuilt in somewhat the same location. The mansion is currently owned by Rick Rubin and operating as a recording studio, which has been credited by many artists as being the place where they've recorded some of their best and most successful work. But before the house's purpose was that of bringing about the creation of some of our favorite bands' albums, the house belonged to Errol Flynn. He was this Australian-born actor and was very popular during the golden age of Hollywood. Now, he's well known because he's associated with the property. I felt it was necessary to tell you about him, although many people usually seem to kind of glaze over his time there when they talk to you about the mansion. And you'll probably understand a little bit more about why they do that as I get into the story.
I'm racking my brain right now. I listen to My Favorite Murder so much, and they always talk about local stuff that's around them. So I'm like, Laurel Canyon, I know that. Wait, why do I know that? Is it because they've said it when they're just talking about where they go for dinner? Or did I hear it? Is it haunted? Or is it a murder? Then you say, what was the actor's name?
Errol Flynn.
I've totally heard that name before, too.
Yeah.
But I cannot think of what you're about to tell me. So I'm trying to use my psychic powers. It's not working.
You might have heard something about this before. I'd be shocked if you didn't. But there's something nearby that really rings like a Wendy red alert alarm that I'll tell you about too.
Okay.
So Errol Flynn, he achieved worldwide fame as the romantic swashbuckler in the Hollywood films, being best known for his role as Robin Hood in The Adventures of Robin Hood from 1938. His portrayal of the character was named by the American Film Institute as the 18th greatest hero in American film history.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Just tooting his horn a little bit. He's had several other famous roles, but that's not all he's so well known for.
He's a murderer, isn't he?
No.
Okay. That's what I'm thinking he was.
I wish it was that. No, and that's so bad of me to say too.
I wish he was a murderer.
I wish. Let's just make that shit up. Yes, he was a murderer.
How dare he?
You're not going to like where this goes with him, though. Flynn also stirred controversy for his reputation as a womanizer and his self-indulgent lifestyle.
What Hollywood actor in that day and age wasn't doing that shit?
Well, that's true. And since you mentioned that day and age, there's some shit that kind of went down that I was just about to get into that like really brings you back to the mindset of that day and age, like why this was allowed to happen. So in 1942, two 17-year-old girls, Betty Hansen and Peggy Satterley, separately accused Flynn of statutory rape. The scandal received immense press attention, and many of Flynn's fans founded organizations to publicly protest the accusations. One such group. Yeah.
Not his possible actions or anything like that. No, these lying 17-year-old girls.
Yes.
That probably ruined their reputation admitting to this in the first place.
Yep, pretty much. One such group was the American Boys Club for the Defense of Errol Flynn. Check out their call name or whatever was called ABCDEF.
Wow. What fucking bonehead thought that went out? This is magic, man.
It's amazing. Just going to go with this.
Dumbasses.
The trial took place in late January and early February 1943, but because the laws were what they were back then, the attorneys drug these two women basically through the gutter, bringing up the accuser's character and morals, and accused them of numerous indiscretions, including having affairs with married men and abortions, which at the time was illegal. So they had to bring all this shit up in court to say, oh, that couldn't possibly have any truth behind it because look at how indecent these women are.
Or that they just brought it upon themselves, too.
Yeah. So, all the bullshit that they somehow got away with back in the day. Yeah, this pretty much happened here. And guess what? Flynn was acquitted. But the trial's widespread coverage and lurid overtones permanently damaged his image as an idealized romantic leading player. Oh, boo-hoo.
That's even shocking.
Yeah.
That it had any kind of negative effect on him.
Yeah, right. It did, apparently. And I guess even though he had this team of people backing him, supporting him or whatever, the word had spread, too far and wide. And people were probably kind of like, yeah, I could see that. He's kind of a sleazeball. So it got set in stone, I guess, for him. And then after the trial, he did go on to make a few more movies, though he never really redeemed himself. And shortly afterwards is when his reputation as a womanizer circulates, as well as having a habit for hard drinking, chain smoking, and narcotics abuse. While he was married, he had been romantically linked with several big names in Hollywood, having become a regular attendee of William Randolph Hearst's extremely lavish affairs at the Hearst Castle. One time he was asked to leave after becoming excessively intoxicated.
Shit. I mean, I think it had to take an excessive amount to get kicked out of something like that. I mean, most of these people are notorious for these kind of what we would see as bad behavior now when they saw completely normal then. So this fucker was extreme.
I know. Can you imagine in the 50s just being like, go home, Flynn, you're drunk. Meanwhile, he's falling down. No, I'm not. Give me another drink.
And a shot of Coke.
Right? So wash it down. The expression "in like Flynn" is said to have been coined to refer to the supreme ease with which he reputedly seduced women. But its origin has been disputed, even though Flynn was apparently so fond of the expression that he later said that he had wanted to call his memoir "In Like Me."
He helped with that ABC name or whatever, didn't he?
I think so. He's a wordsmith, speaking of. But the publisher insisted on a more tasteful title, My Wicked, Wicked Ways.
Fair.
Yeah, that was fair. So, okay, check this out. Flynn had various mirrors and hiding places constructed inside his mansion, including an overhead trapdoor above a guest bedroom that was used for surreptitious viewing.
Oh, no.
Oh. This guy's, he's kind of a creep. Rolling Stones guitarist Ron Wood toured the house as a prospective buyer in the 1970s. And at that time, he reported Errol had two-way mirrors, speaker systems in the ladies' room, not for security, of course. He was an A1 voyeur. Quote, end quote. That was his words. In March 1955, the popular Hollywood gossip magazine Confidential ran a salacious article titled "The Greatest Show in Town, Errol Flynn and His Two-Way Mirror." And in the 1966 biography by actress Heidi Lamar, she wrote, "Many of the bathrooms have peepholes or ceilings with squares of opaque glass through which you can't see through, but someone can see in." Gross.
Gross. Who wants to see that stuff?
This guy was such a creep. So Flynn passes away while he's traveling to Vancouver, and he's not alone. He's got his 17-year-old girlfriend by his side.
Oh,
at the time.
Sorry.
At the time, she said that they were not romantically involved. But after the years rolled by, she decided to come clean, and she let everyone know the truth, which was that he had forced himself on her. And I believe it was when she said she was 15 at the time. I honestly don't remember exactly, but I think it was when she said she was 15. Sorry, you might want to double check my fact there. But I mean, she was 17 when he died, so give or take, right? Most likely.
Yeah.
But they had been romantically involved until he died. And she said that they were in love. So anyways, he died from a heart attack and was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park Cemetery in Glendale, California, which is a little funny because this is a place that he apparently had always hated.
But why did he hate it?
I don't have that. I think that was actually on Wikipedia. They're like, yeah, he's buried in a place that he hates. So I don't know if, who knows, right? Maybe it's just ugly. Maybe. I don't have that information, but I thought that was cute. So I had to keep that in my story too.
Well, I think that's perfect. Yes.
Suitable, right? Suitable ending.
Yeah, some kind of fucking payback to this bitch. But I mean, like, I'd love to know, how do you hate a cemetery? Something haunting must have happened to him, or somebody he doesn't like's already buried there.
Possibly,
or he thinks it's ugly, like you said. It's pretty fucking full of himself, so...
He really was full of himself. In a 1982 interview with Penthouse magazine, Ronald D. Wolfe, who is the son of L. Ron Hubbard, said that his father's friendship with Flynn was so strong that Hubbard's family considered Flynn an adoptive father to D. Wolfe. He said that Flynn and his father engaged in illegal activities together, which included drug smuggling and sexual acts with children.
No, well, we've already kind of said that too, though.
Yeah.
17-year-old, 15-year-old counts as
Right.
a fucking child.
Yes, exactly. So it's easy to hear something like that and say, yeah, I can kind of see that that's this guy's kind of lifestyle. Like he just did whatever the fuck he wanted to, basically. Clearly, the problem with hearing statements like that now is that the actual person that's being accused isn't around to say, no, it didn't happen. But I say, fuck him. There was a lot of other shit that he did that was pretty scandalous. And I think it kind of goes along with his character.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's what Ronald DeWolf had reported back in 82. So I'm just reporting to you what he said. So that's the end of Flynn's very strange story. And apparently he owned a bunch of different homes and boats and shit. I mean, the man had a lot of money. At least he did up until right before he died. And it's possible that his spirit remains at 2451 Laurel Canyon Boulevard because, oddly enough, the mansion burns to the ground the same year he kicks the bucket.
Ooh.
I know, right? That's what I thought too. That was kind of strange. But you should also know that the mansion was already reported to have been haunted well before Flynn came into the picture. However, the backstory on that spirit is extremely vague, and I wasn't able to collect any more on it than this. It was first owned by a furniture store owner whose son pushed his lover from a balcony. And it's been said to have been haunted ever since this time, which was 1918. So this tidbit is super vague, but it's allegedly thought to be the source of the paranormal activity at this location.
Okay.
And then I learned that there is also a Houdini tie-in.
This is why I know it.
I know. I'm not going to lie. This only helped to make the story a whole hell of a lot more confusing. Let me tell you why. So Houdini moved into a house on Laurel Canyon Boulevard in 1915, and that house was owned by Ralph Walker. Now, Walker was a wealthy department store owner, and being friends with Houdini, he had offered that Houdini and his wife stay in his sweet little 4-bedroom guest house, also known as the Cottage. Harry was actually in town making movies at the time for Lasky Pictures. Lasky later moved into the Paramount Studios realm. I don't know if Paramount bought them or how that morphed, but anyways, that's what happened with them. So Harry Houdini and his wife totally stayed there at the Cottage during this time. But the problem with figuring out exactly the location for where Houdini stayed is due to that great fire that I keep mentioning. Mm-hmm. You see, the fire destroyed 38 homes in total. And what was once this winding neighborhood full of these beautiful mansions had now been reduced to rubble. The majority of the area being bulldozed and reconstructed. It is still a neighborhood, but things are just a little bit different now. The streets were changed up a bit. I saw where someone mentioned that there was once a very sharp angled turn that's no longer there after the reconstruction. So the city either, I don't know, I'm speculating, took this as their chance to fix up some of the poor road decisions made during the original construction, or maybe they changed it up just so they could squeeze in a few more homes.
Can I just make a little comment?
Yeah.
I would assume all Californian residents would agree with me on this. California has lots of road issues. Tons of them. They should fix all of them.
All of them.
I support that. As heavy as their property taxes are, I don't understand why this is still happening. But yeah, those sharp turns, fucked up roads all over the place. Like, not so much like in a city, but once you're like on the interstate, it's crazy
really?
For such an expensive place to live. You know, you would think it's like pristine and shit.
Yeah.
Struggling though. Anyways, sorry, just my little rant real quick. The roads suck and scare me.
I love it. Being that I've never been to California, I just have to kind of go off of visuals that I hear people talking about on podcasts or when I read something like this. So it's good to know that you've been there and you thoroughly agree that they need to get their shit in check.
Please. I will donate $1 for that, please.
So as you can see, all of this is what has caused a great deal of confusion for the history of the little Laurel Canyon Boulevard area. And needless to say, Houdini, Errol Flynn, and the ghost of a jilted lover have all over time now have been linked to this one location. Oh yes, and one more thing to add just a smidge more of confusion, the underground tunnels.
What? This I did not know.
Oh, you're going to like this a lot. So it's said that while Houdini and Bess stayed at the cottage, that Bess would hold seances at the Walker Mansion, which was actually across the street from the cottage. Now, I wonder if she ever got any answers about the haunted house, around the corner. Like, this was the one person that may have actually contacted that spirit. It's super interesting to me to know that they were right there basically raising the dead. And in turn, we have a haunted mansion with a little more than nothing to go on to say who's there. Well, that's my little rant. Well, anyways, the guest house or cottage actually had an elevator that went down into a tunnel that ran below the Laurel Canyon area, and elevators would come up into the grounds of these huge houses. The tunnels actually ran all throughout the underneath of this neighborhood. And in the 1920s, there's a liquor store in Laurel Canyon that would actually use the tunnels to deliver alcohol through them. Because why the fuck not? It's the 20s in California.
Right? And when was Prohibition? Because this is the same with, oh my God, I'm going to get it wrong. That mansion that I did, they had like their own little private entrance too.
I didn't even think about it. It was. Damn, you're good. Yeah, it was January 17th, 1920.
It was the Greystone Manor that said the same thing. I don't know if they said they had tunnels.
Oh, man, that's in California too, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not this. I don't know. Maybe it's the same neighborhood. Look, I can't remember my own stories. It's in a fancy. Oh, it's Beverly Hills. So I don't think far from this area, though.
Oh, but just to think that there's all of these places under California with these underground tunnels. Look, I'm so used to now when I look into an abandoned, hospital, insane asylum, whatever.
Right.
When they say there's underground tunnels, I'm like, yeah, no shit. Come on.
Yeah.
You expect it. But under a whole neighborhood of houses and stuff or Beverly Hills, it kind of blows your mind a little bit. You don't expect that.
No, it's fucking California. They're not doing it for weather-related issues.
Right? Exactly.
This is sneaky shit. This is what they're up to. That's the only reason they have those fucking tunnels. Everybody out east in your area, they can say, it's, the weather's bad. We don't want to go out there. We got to get these patients to the other building. No. In California, that's not what they're doing.
No. They were smart. They're like, we're still getting that alcohol, man. Fuck you. Love it. So these tunnels, they still exist today, although they're all sealed off and apparently no one can actually access them. And just so you know, there is a cottage around the corner from 2451 Laurel Canyon, which now serves as a historic venue catering to the time Houdini stayed in the area. Note to all of you that like to take a little history lesson off the beaten path. It's supposed to be not as touristy in that area. So, if you like to step outside of Los Angeles, I've never been to Los Angeles, so I'd like to step inside and outside and visit it all.
And all around. But I imagine they're private residents. So don't get their security called on you. This is not mid-class living. These people have the money for that security guard to drive around and be like, excuse me, can I help you in your Ford Escape? You don't belong here.
I was just going to say, don't go driving around in something that looks like the rape van, right? Like, no, get the hell out of here, sir. Errol Flynn would have a much harder time these days.
Well, we hope.
Oh, yeah, we hope. Okay, well, that's all the running around I've got for you on the mansion's past. Let me bring you right up to the present, or at least to the 90s. Enter Rick Rubin. If you don't know his name, you'll definitely know some of the bands he's helped to produce over the years. The Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Adele, Linkin Park, AC/DC, Kanye West, Johnny Cash, Tom Petty, Justin Timberlake, Metallica, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Slipknot, and on and on. And okay, you get the picture.
Yeah, I love how you mixed it up to where I was like, okay, no, okay, yes, hard pass. Wait, Johnny Cash? I was all up and down the list.
I had to do it like that.
Yeah, I like it.
So Rick Rubin is here, and he purchases the house, or what is known as the mansion. And he makes changes that would turn it into a recording studio and also a place to stay, a sort of refuge which would allow musicians to stay super focused on the music while being able to relax in order to enhance their creativity, as musicians do.
Is this like code for trip out on drugs and write albums or something?
And whatever they want to do. It's a huge ass house. When I read all of that originally, I was like, okay, this seems to me to be a lot like, which is funny because I said I just read The Shining, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy type of scenario. Like, You're living here and you're working here, guys. You don't get to leave. But then my story doesn't actually end up with anyone blowing up the boiler in the mansion. So,
do we know how that fire started? No.
Yeah, right, exactly. So the situation here with the mansion seemed to work out pretty well. And I assume that was just because this was in Los Angeles. So 1991, the Red Hot Chili Peppers wanted to record their upcoming album and were looking for an unconventional setting that would allow them to enhance their creative output. So, of course, Rick Rubin's like, hey, guys, I got just the place for you. The band all decided that they would remain inside the mansion for the duration of recording, all except for Chad Smith. Now, Chad Smith is the drummer for Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he was actually convinced that the location was haunted. So he straight up refused.
Wow. I did not know that about him.
Yeah. He chose to instead ride to the studio every day on his motorcycle. And again, when I first read that, I was like, he doesn't really want to stay around all these people. I mean, yeah, it's got 10 bedrooms in all, but maybe the quarters are still too tight to spend all day and night with your coworkers, if you know what I'm saying.
I could see that from him, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then Smith was backed up by John Frusciante. I hope to God I'm saying that right. I don't know for sure, but that's the lead guitarist for Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now, John Frusciante agrees with Smith's claims of ghosts in the house, saying, and I quote, "There are definitely ghosts in the house."
Done.
Done. But unlike Smith, who seemed to have been creeped out by the spirits, Frusciante was not. He said, "They were very friendly. We have nothing but warm vibes and happiness everywhere we go in this house." Now, hang on a second. He makes it seem like it's this warm, inviting, fuzzy feeling, right? But I also read more, and his comment about the ghosts being friendly was meant more in the friendly with air quotes kind of a way, not the Casper the Ghost friendly sort of. But still, he wasn't bothered by it. Any way you look at it, he was cool. You musicians, right?
Yeah. It's an experience for them, so maybe it allows them to open up creatively too. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, it's not your average day hanging out with ghosts. And so that might have inspired him to write something. He might have been sitting there and be like, what do you think, ghostly figure? What should I do?
Having a nice little chat with them.
You look for a muse anywhere you can find it, I would assume.
Oh, I like that.
When you have to constantly turn out albums to stay relevant, how long have they been in the business?
Well, this was 1991, and we're talking, this is Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. So this is like right when they're like, boom, bam on the scene, because that was the album that kind of like set their career off. They've had a couple albums since then. I don't know, maybe a handful, 5 or 6. I didn't honestly follow them after Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. I mean,
well, no, sorry. But, like, my kids know who they are and love their music and stuff.
Yeah. I know. I was shocked when my son sings along to Californication. And to me, it's like, why would you pick, of all the Red Hot Chili Peppers songs, like, why would you pick that one to sing along with? But that's more his style.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Cool. It's Red Hot Chili Peppers. I can get down with this. One of the ghosts even made an appearance into a photo, which was used in the album's artwork. The Blood Sugar Sex Magic album art features a snapshot of a strange orb, or some say a face, which is hovering around Anthony Kiedis during a group photograph that was taken on the property. Red Hot Chili Peppers members maintain this was a spirit from the house. Meanwhile, the photographer also admitted that this image was only ever noticed after the picture was developed. It's a weird blurb of an image, and it clearly has some coloration that was added, probably for the effect of, again, album artwork. So I'll send you a picture of this now, Wendy, if you don't have your Red Hot Chili Peppers album handy.
Let me pull out my CD. Young kids being like, what's a CD?
What is this whole thing?
Compact disc. That's hilarious.
I know. It's so funny.
These antiques. I feel like they were totally vibing on this ghost.
Yeah.
For them to be like, look at it, it's in our artwork.
Right.
Yeah.
They were totally digging it. Do you see this?
Oh, I totally see this.
Isn't that weird? I'm not going to lie. When I read this is the whole reason why I did the story. It's like, no shit, I've seen this before. I had no idea that they thought that was a ghost. How come that wasn't made more clear to me? I don't know why. I thought maybe it was just a weird, effect that they were putting in this.
Right. You never know. Like what an artist just might be like, I'm going to add this it's a blurb on society. Right. It's what's fogged in Anthony Kiedis' head. I don't know. You never know what the artist or photographer is trying to portray in his artwork. So you wouldn't think twice about this unless like underneath they were like, that's the ghost we hung out with a few months to write this album. Which in that small little print that they would always put in the little jacket booklet, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Maybe it did say that. I had never read it.
I stopped reading the booklets when I decided that it was way cooler for me to just decide what the words were and sing along whatever I felt they were saying. So I stopped, but I did look through the artwork. I was a huge Tool fan. Tool albums were extremely interesting to look through. Shit, there was even one that came out, I believe it was Lateralis, and it came with like glasses so that you could see the artwork like moving and bending and, so.
That's cool.
It was really cool. I wasn't a big fan of that album, but but the artwork was always very interesting in a lot of their CDs and stuff. And I know I'm speaking to a dying race here because who the fuck buys CDs these days?
But they still put out artwork when they release music. I mean, maybe it's just a cover, but then there's all these social media posts afterwards, which is like back in the day, we just didn't have that, So this was their opportunity to send you Instagram posts.
Oh, yeah. No kidding,
They
right?
got 5 pages in this little jacket inside their CD case that they got to send you their kind of emotions and feelings while writing this whole thing. So it's what you would see on Instagram now, and you would get to see it more frequently because of the ease of posting this stuff and taking photos and everything. I make it sound like they, had to bring out the big camera with the
the whole tripod
and they hold the light and stuff. It wasn't like that, guys. But I'm just saying.
Yes. And even now, I mean, we have YouTube, and you can just go to YouTube and find the video of the song that you want to hear, and you can just play it, and just listen to it, or you can actually watch the video. So, you didn't have that opportunity back when we were kids. You had to wait until MTV finally rolled around of, finally, I've been waiting to see this all day. Shit, it's on.
Oh my God. You'd play it in the background like all day, just waiting for your favorite song to come on. Like, thank you, God. I've been here for 3 hours.
Waiting. I mean,
wow, we are 100 years old.
I know. Did this episode just so that we would feel super, super old. Oh my gosh, yes. So one more thing, and Wendy, you probably already know this. I don't know if everyone listening knows this, but I had to add this into my story just because it's funny. It's a little visual. For anyone that's not already aware, Chad Smith, the guy that I mentioned earlier, the one that wouldn't stay at the house, he could very easily be Will Ferrell's twin brother.
Oh my God, it's so funny that you brought that up, because when you said his name earlier, I wanted to point that out to people. If you don't know who it is, because the Red Hot Chili Peppers are a classic old band. Maybe you don't listen to them or haven't heard of them, but he's been on what?
Saturday Night Live.
He's been on stuff, and him and Will Ferrell go at it.
Yes. I did have a picture ready. I sent it to you anyways, but I know Wendy watches Saturday Night Live, and she watches a lot of comedic guys that do stand up and stuff. So I knew that you would already be cued into it. But look at that picture. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. They did a drum off on some, I guess it's on Jimmy Fallon, I think. And
Okay.
yeah, they both went on, and like Will Ferrell's dressed just like him, and then they're supposed to be having a drum off. But like, of course, Chad Smith is actually drumming, and Will Ferrell's like just making a mess. Like the music's playing, he's not even hitting anything at one point in time. It was funny.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm totally going to put that on Twitter. That's going to be amazing to watch.
It was good, yeah.
So I didn't see that, but I did see the picture of them sitting side by side on a couch, and it did look like the Tonight Show, where they're both wearing like maybe a Kiss or an AC/DC shirt, a leather jacket. They both have earrings, and the hat turned backwards. I'm like, you couldn't tell those guys apart. One's a little shorter, but that's it.
I wonder which one it is now that you say that. But yeah, because Will Ferrell, he'll stay in like character. So the whole time he's like, I'm Chad Smith. And Chad Smith's like, yeah, it's kind of funny.
It's awesome. I love that. And I also love Will Ferrell. So that's even better for me. So Blood Sugar Sex Magik went on to sell 13 million records, thanks in part to the mainstream success of Under the Bridge, Give It Away, and Breaking the Girl. Since 1991, the Chili Peppers have returned to the mansion numerous times to record additional tracks for their compilation album that included Fortune, Faded, and Save the Population, before going back to the mansion and making Stadium Arcadium a few years later. Anthony Kiedis and John Frusciante credited the mansion as being an integral part of creating that record, explaining how the place would immediately put everyone in a good mood and spark their creativity. So more to your point, it seemed like this was their muse. But Red Hot Chili Peppers were not the only ones to have stayed and recorded famous albums at the mansion. There are lots of other bands and a few others that have also had something to say about the ghosts that reside at the recording studio mansion. Now, this is where I get to nerd out. Going back to my heavy metal roots.
Let me guess. No, I don't want to guess because I don't want to embarrass myself. I was going to say Slipknot. And I'm like, wait, are they heavy metal?
You nailed it. Yes, Slipknot. So I had to go and dig out my CD.
Where did you play that?
In my van. My van has a CD player.
Oh, okay.
And it's so funny because I have like books upon books of CDs. I don't have the cases anymore. I don't have the artwork. All of that's long gone. I just have these, the binders that you put the discs in. We've got tons of binders, and I'm sitting there in the morning looking through all these CDs to try and find the Slipknot one. And I'm like, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, that's crap. Why do I even have that? And I'm flipping. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, oh my God, I bet the disc doesn't even say it's Slipknot. I don't remember what the shit looks like. So I had to use trusty old internet, which is where I could also download the fucking CD if I wanted to. Just to find what this fucking thing looks like. And look, someone's got a picture of it on eBay. They're trying to sell the disc on eBay. Talk about feeling old. So anyways, I did find it. I've been rocking out to it all week just to really embrace this entire story. So yes, Slipknot. In case you don't know, anybody listening, the 9-piece metal band Slipknot reported experiencing a number of unusual events while living there during the recording of their album, Volume Number 3, The Subliminal Verses. Drummer Joey Jordison claimed to have had an unsettling experience in the basement when he felt something touch him sexually.
Oh.
And as a result, that man never went down there again. That's it. Don't need that anymore. So now on to Corey Taylor, who is the lead singer of Slipknot and Stone Sour. Well, he wrote a rather interesting book, and it is called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Heaven.
Currently, Chris is showing me the copy of the book.
I have the book right here, guys. I'm that much of a nerd. It's called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Heaven, or How I Made Peace with the Paranormal and Stigmatized Zealots and Cynics in the Process. Yes, this man was not afraid to use long-ass titles. Just saying. So in his book, he does his best to set the record straight on this location, indicating that he's done his research on the whole Houdini story. Yet he glazes over the Errol Flynn bit, and I don't blame him, for doing that. Errol Flynn was a douchebag, while Houdini was quite amazing. So I'd rather spend my time researching and talking about someone great like Houdini too.
Yes, I agree.
So back to Corey Taylor. In his book, he talks about first being in the mansion and how excited he was, running through all the rooms like a kid, saying that it felt to him like he was in a museum. He made it down into the basement, and him and a few of the band members found a room down there and noted that it was pitch black and freezing cold. No windows, no light switch, and it was very possible at one point that it had been a wine cellar. While they're standing there, they all kind of get a little spooked, and they dare Corey to go in, which he does. And he walks into the center of the room, which, of course, his guys shut and lock the door behind him.
You fell for it, Corey.
Exactly. Oldest trick in the book. So he's like, whatever, no big deal. I can stand here. I don't care. At this moment, he said something walked right through him. He said it pushed him back very suddenly and that he got very freaked out. He ran back to where he thought the door handle was, and he's like in pitch blackness, struggling to try and find the handle to get the hell out of there. He fumbled around in the darkness for a while until he finally found the door and got out. He said that he was so panicked and freaked out that he couldn't even explain to the others what had happened to him. That seemed to have only been the beginning. He said that their gear, amps, recording equipment, all would malfunction. A whole session was lost due to a loop that started playing in the headphones. He says that a ghost actually got into the machine one night while they were making Vermilion. He said that it started looping a session of a verse. So they hit record and began making a remix of that loop, which you can actually hear right between Before I Forget and Vermilion Part 2. I recorded it because, like I said, I have the CD. And this is why I had to go dig out my CDs. So when I read this situation, he says it's between these two tracks. I'm like, well, I can't go to YouTube and say, okay, YouTube, play me between these two tracks. No, it's going to be like this one or that one. So sweet. I'm a nerd. I've got all my CDs. I found that bad boy. I went out to my van, driving my son to work in the morning. I'm like, guess what, son? You get to hear some heavy metal. He's like, great. And we're listening, and Before I Forget comes on. I'm like, oh yeah, it's Before I Forget and Vermilion Part 2. That's where you hear it. So I'm like, I like this song. Have you heard this song? He's like, no. I'm like, I'm surprised because it's a hit. I figured that they would have used it on something. But anyways, I recorded the loop that they said that they had got, and I'm going to play it for you right now. I want you to note that it is, again, at the very end of Before I Forget and before Vermilion Part 2. So you'll hear a little bit of both songs and the loop in between. And they mixed it so that the volume actually gets louder. So here we go. So that was it. Could you hear it?
Yeah. It sounds like there's voices in there to me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the song Vermilion, there are words. So it would have probably caught. And you're right, listening to this too, of course, they're musicians, they're artists. They decided, hell yeah, okay, well, we're going to keep it this time and put it on the end of our song. They liked it enough. So I'm sure they changed the pitch of the volume. You know, it went from low to high. They added that. And they might have added a few more things too. So we don't really know what's paranormal in this clip anymore. However, they say the loop is. So most likely it's the voices that you're hearing. Here, I'll play it again so we can hear it. After the yeah, yeah, yes. Sorry. There is like whispering in the background too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's what I would assume that's what they mean is paranormal, but it's hard to tell. I mean, like listening to the album, nobody would ever pick that up being like, why is there whispering? No, because artists sometimes add little weird, quirky things to the end. Shit, the way that we intro our podcast sometimes is us just being like, hey, we're recording, quit picking your nose or whatever. And then we're like, hey, welcome to the Creatures of the Night. We put on our radio voice, you know? So, I mean, like you think, okay, these artists just left them trailing off.
Yes.
And then that could be their voices or something. But if that's what they're saying is like, that was not us, but it was appearing in shit. You could totally kind of hear just some whispering like going on.
Yeah, you can hear some whispering in the background. You can hear some beeping noises. And
see, I didn't know if the beeping was about I thought that was like the end of the song. Listen, I'm not a Slipknot fan. Not that I hate them, but I wasn't really introduced to it by anyone, so I never really knew that it existed or anything. So I didn't listen to their music. So the ... or whatever at the end, I thought that was like, that's the end of the song, and then you hear whispering after that.
I've heard this album like 1,000 times. And when I played that song, and of course my son's with me, and I know that this is supposed to happen between these two tracks. So I turn it up and I'm listening to it and I'm waiting for something new to like jump out at me. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's it? I heard that like 1,000 fucking times. I didn't realize that was supposed to be the Paranormal Loop. It blew my mind. This is an album that came out in 2004, and here I am years later. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. But, there's obviously nothing there saying, get out. There's nothing that is specifically saying something to you to indicate that it would be paranormal. So there's no way I would have known that either.
No, it's just like the orb on the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You wouldn't have known. It's not like you actually see I didn't see a face in that orb necessarily.
Yeah.
So you don't see anything incredibly unique about it. It looks like not a water spot, but whatever. It's just like a blob over his head.
It looks like a piece of rice.
Yeah.
Like, put that piece of rice there.
I don't know why they would keep this picture in. It looks stupid. So you don't know this is them trying to be like, look at my paranormal evidence, Right. So we wouldn't have caught that because we would have thought that that's just them whispering, I guess, in the back.
Exactly.
They didn't explain it, and you can't clearly hear it.
Exactly. You're right. It's not something that jumps out at you. If someone was sitting down on a YouTube video and they're playing with a spirit box or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, what's that? Well, then you're keyed into it. But again, if you're just listening to it for some heavy metal, you're just like, yeah, that's awesome.
Well, shit.
Cool.
We could make our own band and throw in our EVPs. And if we never told anybody that's what they were just like, this is some unique music.
That's what it would be from us. Very unique. So, it was actually really fun taking a walk down memory lane and listening to that album again. Every morning on my way into work, it put me in a really good mood.
Rolling into your office parking lot.
Ready to go, man.
In your minivan, too.
Yes, right. My rockstar minivan.
You are like the coolest mom on the block.
I try to be. So in the mansion, things would disappear and reappear in different rooms, and they would feel the presence of someone sitting on their beds when no one was even there. Also, Corey Taylor says that he learned that the room he chose to stay in was a room that Cameron from the band American Head Charge stayed in and had gotten so spooked out that he left after staying in that room for only one night.
Damn.
So Corey Taylor was taking a shower. He said that he was in his room alone. So this room is massive. And by the way, he was sharing it with one of the other band members. Now, remember, there's 9 guys in this band. There's only 10 rooms in this mansion. So I guess some of them bunked up. Maybe not all of them are bedrooms. I don't know. So he's sharing a room with one of the other band members, but he's out of town. He has the room to himself. So the door to the bedroom is actually shut and locked. But he left the bathroom door wide open because he's a dude, and that's what dudes do. He's taking a shower. He says he's in the middle of shampooing and conditioning his long hair at the time and also singing a Bee Gees song, of all fucking things. He was actually really excited because he was about to go and hit the town, right? Suddenly, he sees a man in a tuxedo walking right past the open door. He immediately froze and vaulted right on out of the shower to race into the bedroom to see who had snuck in. But of course, there was nobody there. Years later, he had been confronted by a reporter who had told him about the man in a tux that had been found dead on the property many years earlier. And Taylor said that he had been so startled by the interview that he had to cut it short. He was not the only one from the group that had seen strange things, though. I mentioned the drummer earlier on. Well, Joey Jordison also claimed to see someone walk into his room, but this thing would stand at the foot of his bed and then slowly dissipate. He also reported that the door to his room would swing open at exactly 9:30 a.m. every morning.
That's hilarious.
Crazy. So it's the thing that I love the most about that is I feel like there are some paranormal things going on at this place for sure. But you're also there with a bunch of asshole rock star kind of guys. And, there's a good chance that a lot of them are kind of fucking with you. I mean, for the most part, I had seen this Actually, I read about it. Oasis was another band that I really got into. Not heavy metal whatsoever.
No.
Not at all, but I loved them. And I bought everything that they ever put out, and I read everything that they ever did. But I can't remember if it was Liam or Noel. One of them was so sure that the place where they were staying at, sort of similar to this, to record one of their albums was haunted, that like every little thing turned out to be like a haunted incident. And the guys were really fucking with them. Like they put like fishing line and shoes and dragged the shoes across the floor. They like really went the extra mile here. So, and now we're talking about Slipknot. I'm talking Oasis is 4 guys. Slipknot is 9 dudes, and they would have people over all the time. So yes, while things were obviously very clearly going on there, I mean, people don't just show up at the foot of your bed and then disappear and, be real people. But I think that a lot of these other things were they were just kind of getting fucked around with. Like I told you at the very beginning of their story, they all went down to the cellar and they're all like, yeah, it's creepy. Dude, you go in. And they shut the door on him like, ha ha, good luck. So these guys were clowns.
Yeah, but unless they're lying, they're having true paranormal experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was alone in that room when he thought something touched him. He got locked in that dark room.
He said it went right through him. It pushed him back.
Yeah.
Corey Taylor, this book is so fucking interesting and so good. But these aren't his only paranormal experiences ever. Like this book, I bought it because it's a lot of paranormal experiences that he's had. And also he writes very down to earth. When you're reading it, it kind of sounds like you're sitting at a bar having drinks with your cousin, and he's telling you about all this crazy shit that's happened and you're just like mesmerized. You're hanging on every word. And he has a whole lot more interesting stories that happened to him. I could go on and on and on, but I decided to cut it short and only very, very basically summarize the things that had happened there. But they had a lot of shit happen. And he dedicated a whole chapter to the mansion because it was to him such a paramount, I guess, time in his life also. So not only did he have so many paranormal events going on, but this was also the time in his life when he decided to change to become a better person, which I thought was amazing because if you go back and listen to like the things that Anthony Kiedis and the Red Hot Chili Peppers said, to them, it was always like they produced like their best albums there. They always had like a great experience. Well, while he was there, Corey Taylor was like, you know what? I'm not fucking around with alcohol and drugs anymore. I'm just not. I'm done with it. So good positive things are kind of coming out of here, even though some of the stories are a little spooky. It just, you have to deal with it, right?
Right.
He actually went on to say that he realized that he reacted to the guy in the tux as if anybody would. They saw something, they couldn't explain it, so they would be in fear of what it was until they could logically ration things out. Okay, it was a ghost, he didn't hurt me. He was either just walking through my world or I was just taking a shower in his. It just happened to coincide at the right time. He's a strong believer in the paranormal, and the dude's from Iowa. So
of course he would be.
Of course he would be.
It's instilled in him.
Right? I recommend picking up the book and reading it, but just remember that he is a rock star, so the vocabulary can be quite colorful at times. He's very entertaining. Another very short story comes to us from System of a Down, who was at the mansion in 2004, recording 2 of their albums, Mesmerize and Hypnotize. Guitarist Darren Malakian said that every day around 4 o'clock, his amp tubes would act strange. Rick Rubin's publicist, Heidi Robinson Fitzgerald, was there during this time as well, organizing interviews and photo shoots at the house. One day, she arrived early before anyone else had gotten there to set things up. She sat down in the dining room, facing the grand winding staircase with her back to the entryway. When suddenly she felt something was behind her, she said it was by her back. The feeling became so strong, though she said that it wasn't like a bad feeling or anything. It was just obvious, and it grew to where it was so intense that she felt like someone was standing right behind her. But she turned around, and there was nothing there. Instead, an apparition actually appeared in front of her.
Oh.
Yeah. It was the ghost of a woman dressed all in white. She said it was walking down the winding stairs, and even though there was no breeze in the house, it appeared that whatever she was wearing was floating in the wind. And then she just stopped. Heidi wasn't sure if the woman saw her or not, but the woman turned around and walked right back up the stairs.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're in the kitchen right now. I'll come back later. I was looking for that last donut, but whatever. Too embarrassed to eat in front of other people. Yeah. I know the feeling.
So I thought that was a cute one to add to the story. There's just so much history and there's so much going on. And this is like just a really wild location. Also, it seems to be a little off the beaten path, like I said earlier. So if you want to get out of the more touristy part of town, but still visit something kind of historic and spooky, this would be a neat place to drive by. Plus, you've got the hookup with the Houdini Museum being right around the corner. So you should totally visit both, I think. You probably can't actually get inside the mansion, but if you're driving by, you might get to catch a glimpse of something for yourself, or maybe a rock star, whatever.
When I was doing my Houdini episode and I was looking for places that he was haunting, this one was mentioned, though it's not the actual place that he lived at because things are all mixed around now. But, you know, there was this YouTube video that there was this guy that was like, this is the Houdini mansion. I think they even have a statue there or something. But there's extensive gardens. And this dude was just like walking through the fucking gardens. And I was like, I hope he was invited. There was like a party going on.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, surely there's some kind of security in this mansion, but he spoke to nobody. I'm not encouraging anybody to do this, by the way. I'm just saying, you have a nice suit on or something like that. Maybe you can just kind of, I'm just here for the party.
Sure, I can look fancy.
We could try.
I mean, I'd give it a whirl. I mean, I don't know. You can clearly go and visit the Houdini mansion. It is in a neighborhood. I would suggest probably doing what Wendy said and not trespass, because I'm sure that these are residents. You know, these are people that are actually living there, and you don't want to just go tromping through their topiary gardens. They probably have Dobermans. Release the hounds. You know, you don't want to find that shit. You're just looking for something haunted. So, but yes, I was in love with the story. I found it a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't wait to tell you about it. For me, it gave me a chance to relive some of my earlier years, as I said earlier in the story that I'm turning 40 soon. So I got to rock out a little bit like I had in my younger years. I hope I didn't mess up my speakers. So I thought it was a great story, and I hadn't really done anything on Rockstars. I've been trying to.
You've been trying to work it in somehow.
Yeah. I really, really have been. I did the haunted pharmacy in Louisiana a couple episodes ago. And really what I was wanting to do was a story on Alabama, because as I said in that story, Alabama was actually the first place where Mardi Gras was. So I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to represent, you know, Mardi Gras in Alabama. So what happened here? And I'm like, oh, well, let's look at Leonard Skinner, you know, Sweet Home Alabama. Let's find out more about them. They're not haunting shit, you know. They have a neat story, but no, they're not. They're not haunting anything. So it's like,
well, that's a bummer, but good for them, I guess. They're at peace. No, it's totally cool to do a story like this, too, because actors and musicians that are famous, these are successful people. Yeah. There's no reason for them to make up a story, you know? Right. They've already got attention. They can get attention for just about anything that they want. They don't have to tell you some fake story about a ghost. And it feels like these stories are genuine. They had these real experiences and they somewhat enjoyed them. Not everybody, obviously. Some didn't want to spend the night there, and some were like, they molested me. But others wanted to come back for more. You know, they really loved the vibe going around there. It can't be that Errol Flynn guy there. Yeah. Because he's not leaving positive vibes.
No.
He can't. He can't. He sounded like a horrible fucking person.
Yeah.
It's got to be kind of a good thing going on there for the most part. Maybe a little handsy.
Yeah, it is. Whatever's there is a little handsy, which was funny because that actually did give me the Errol Flynn vibe. You know, he was the kind of handsy, you know, he was the partier. He was the one that was like, hey, you know, what are you doing? What am I doing? I'm just going to sit here. You know, there was another story that I had read about Corey Taylor where I don't remember which one it was, but this is kind of weird. One of the dudes, I assume it was his roommate, right, was in the room with him, and he's walking through in the middle of the night, and it looks like there's two people in Corey's bed, not just Corey. So, yeah, and it looks like, you know, there's some movement. So, dude turns on the light. Like, creep.
Yeah, just interrupt this shit.
Yeah, and there was only Corey Taylor in bed. So he's like, whoa, what the fuck? So he tells Corey Taylor, and like Corey was like disturbed from that moment on. He's like, you saw what?
Yeah, that would be alarming.
Yeah. But again, he never felt anything bad. He just, you know, he felt a little creeped out that maybe some dude in a tuxedo was like peeping in on his shower. But other than that, he's the one that jumped out all nude and was like, hey, rah, 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 rah. Get out of my room.
I mean, if you think it's some trespasser, which, I mean, could totally happen, you know, I think that's why you have that first initial reaction a lot of the time, especially when a figure would look so realistic to you. You would be like, who the fuck is in this house? Giant house like that. Somebody could be hiding out in any corner, just waiting. And now they're taking a vulnerable moment while you're in the shower, you know, so he jumps out and investigates and has that reaction. That's completely normal. I wonder almost if they bunked up in rooms because they were fucking scared. They're like, hey, you want to
my bunkmate?
Yeah, we don't need this whole house. We should just kind of stay in this one corner together.
I love it. That's very possible. One of the band members, they did say, actually moved all of his shit out of one of his rooms, and he would not even go into the room until it was like the last possible moment and just to go to sleep, and that was it. So
how could you sleep in there then? He took some heavy sleeping pills.
Yes, some heavy sleeping pills, or he drank his night away. I mean, I just have to say that I am in love with hearing. I mean, rock stars to me are just in a different league. You don't realize how human they are until they put their lives out there for you in like such a manner as Corey Taylor did. So to hear that, I mean, and these are, we're talking heavy metal dudes too. And they're like, I ain't going in that room. What? Have you seen these guys? They wear masks on stage that are terrifying. It's stuff that you'd see in a horror movie or a haunted house. And they're like, nope, you can't make me go in there. Not going to do it.
That's adorable. This story was awesome. I loved every single fucking minute of it, by the way.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad that you did. I was super excited to put it out there. And if you happen to be a rock star listening to our podcast, then just hit up Rick Rubin and schedule a date to record your next album and stay at the mansion. Then you can invite your podcasting girls, Chris and Wendy, because we would love to be on your next album. Hint, hint, hint. Or even we could just investigate and interview you. See, wouldn't that be sweet? I mean, come on. We told you about contacting Rick Rubin, so at least you could throw us a bone. So anyways, like I mentioned earlier, if you're going to the mansion and want a podcast interview, please write to creaturesofthenight paranormal@gmail.com. You can always direct message us on Instagram under COTN_paranormal or Facebook and Twitter under COTN paranormal. You can also write to us if you have had any other stories that you want to share about the Houdini Mansion or the Laurel Canyon Boulevard area in general. We also have a spiritual shop on Etsy. It's called The Spirit Emporium, and it also has its own Instagram and Twitter, all under the same name this time. It's The Spirit Emporium. So if you're planning on doing your own seance, visit our shop first for a few amazing spiritual products that might help you with your connections. We have pendulums and spirit boards, candles, crystals, and a variety of soaps, bath bombs, skin bombs. I feel like I'm talking about Rick Rubin again here. But we've created all of these wonderful things for you to help aid in your connection or to protect you while you're reaching out to the spirit world. Don't need any help making those connections? That's cool. We, as podcasters, need to know that you love us. You can simply rate and review and subscribe just to show us your appreciation. Or you can always buy one of our sweet Creatures of the Night t-shirts. These are up on our site as we speak. Please support your podcasters in any of these ways.
Please.
I guess just to wrap up the whole thing, the mansion is haunted. The end.
Yes, and also, we're not joking. If you get a fucking invite to this place, can you please put us down as your +2?
Right? +2. And, I mean, I don't eat anything, so you don't have to worry about me because I'll have to bring my own food and all of that. But we would love to go and check this place out. I think it's super fun. Like, that's all I got from this story. It was such a fun story. So
again, loved every bit of it. Like I said, I knew it sounded fucking familiar from somewhere, and I just breezed over it because as for the Houdini haunting, it was very iffy. Obviously, he didn't pass away there. Yeah. He seems to have scattered little pieces of himself everywhere is how people feel. So I wouldn't put it past him haunting it. He just didn't have the strongest connection. So I don't even know if I mentioned it in my show so long ago. And I definitely did not research it to this extent. I knew that they used it as a recording studio and lots of people had gone through there, but I didn't find any hardcore Houdini evidence, so I moved on. So it's so fucking cool that you revisited it because to hear that all these bands went there and had these experiences, so fucking cool.
Isn't that cool? And of course, they're all stating, we're at the Houdini Mansion. We're at the Houdini Mansion. Guys, come on, get a hold of yourselves.
technically not the Houdini mansion, but there's obviously some activity going on there. And those fucking tunnels. If somebody can explain the damn tunnels to us.
Please, we'd love to hear more about those tunnels. Or if you know a secret way to get in and you want your podcasters there with you, we'd love that too.
I'd be scared to go down in those fucking tunnels.
Oh man, but you got to think too. Like I bet like Rick Rubin's mansion or even the cottage, they had entrances into the tunnels. Now, I know that the fire made a lot of changes over there, but the publicist that was there that saw the woman in white coming down the stairs, she said that she's seen the entrance to the tunnel and that it was creepy. She didn't say she went into it. But that tells me that from the Rick Rubin mansion, there is still access to the tunnels. So maybe that is allowing some of these paranormal connections to still flow through into that mansion.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like even if it's coming from other places, it's just a means for spirits to travel from any of these properties. And the stories connected to them. So it would be so hard to pin it down. Like you'd have to get in there, Rick Rubin. You'd have to let somebody in.
Some paranormal investigators.
Do some hardcore investigating.
Wow.
To totally help you out with that. Does he still own the place?
As far as I know, he does, but which is funny because he doesn't stay there. He has his own place in California, which is also, from what I understand, pretty fucking creepy. So all the way around, it's nice to know. But back to the tunnels, just one more thing. The tunnels stayed the same while everything on top changed. So it would make sense for those spirits to still use them and access them, thinking that it's still the same path. Like everything down there is still the same.
They could be pretty confused and mixed up, too.
Yeah, just like I was about writing this entire story. But yeah, that's all that I have. So I'm glad you liked it. I hope you guys listening liked it, too. And that's it.
All right. Well, bye.